4.
Done.
There we go. There we go. Oh, look at that green grass out there with Melanie. I don't remember that at all. Okay, here's what we're going to do is if you have questions, type them in the chat. If I don't see them, because when I share my screen in a moment, I might not see them. So Carl, interrupt me.
Cool.
Like, especially when I go from one disease to the next. I know it's just exciting already, just talking about it. Just ask me some questions then. And try to stay on topic in your chat, people. I know Carl will probably be a big offender on that, but try to rein him in. We're here to pay attention. All right, so the quiz we're going to have on this is open book. Don't take any notes on anything you see on screen. I'm going to post the slideshow minus the pictures. You're welcome. So you won't have to see them again, but all the text will be there. But if I say anything interesting, honestly, I should have looked at the quiz. It's pretty minor. It's just really, we're talking about it now. You take the quiz. It's just a way to cement some of the ideas. That's really the goal. It's not to trick. It's none of that. If I say anything interesting that's not on I'll try not to say anything interesting and then make it, well, I will say interesting things. Sorry, I won't put that on the quiz. It will just be from the slide presentation. I think that's what we're going to go with. All right. And there we are. This slide presentation was made for our high schoolers when we go into the schools. So sometimes it has fun things that I wouldn't necessarily put on there for college kids, but when the students would walk into the room, this is the first thing they would see. Is that visible? Am I doing this right, Carl?
It is. And so are your notes visible. Do you want that, or would you rather not?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll come in and help. I'll be right there.
That's a waste of space. I don't know if I told you this story or not, but when I worked at Missouri Southern and they found out that I also worked at Life Choices, they would come and make these kind of questions to me all the time, asking me medical things that they shouldn't, but asking me. I was the speech teacher. Oh, there we go. Ta-da. Oh, applaud applause. Very nice. This is an ugly slide. Sorry about that. I just stuck this in so you would have the notes later. This is just a quick discussion about why it's STD and STI. Way back when I was a kid, it was VD. I think Sonberg even referred to that for venereal disease. Then it changed to STD. And then the CDC that we adore, the Center for Disease Control, is the place you always need to go for information, changed it to STIs. And we thought, what the heck? Are you just trying to downplay it? But here's how it goes. You get an STI, you get an infection. And if you don't treat it, it could turn into a disease. So yeah, they're really two separate things, but they're used interchangeably. So if you're writing a professional paper or trying to get a grant or do something, do understand the difference and use them correctly. It will be very impressive. So here's the deal. The medicines that we have can fix the infection. It can't always fix the disease. So yeah, there is a difference, but in the real world, you can use them interchangeably. And notice you don't put an apostrophe on them. That's also to help you look more professional when you write. In fact, we're getting away from the apostrophe. You talk about, you have a bunch of CDs, you don't put a CD apostrophe S, just to let you know how to look cool. Sorry, my speech teacher's coming out. All right, so that's the difference. Feel free to use them interchangeably because most people do. So we had to define sex, and you would think that's kind of a duh thing, but there's the definition right there. And we would have the kids go, they would say, everybody stand up, and they would stand up. This is ninth graders. Sex is, they would repeat after us and have to yell it loudly. It would reverberate down the hall, right? If any part of your body, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, any part of your body is in someone else's underwear zone, doing anything at all, medically speaking, you're having sex. And my gosh, they would freak, especially when we did church rallies. They would turn white. They would turn red. They would turn and look at each other because they were involving themselves in all this bottom stuff here, this list here at the bottom of the screen, but they didn't think it was sex. And so medically speaking, anything that can share an STD is having sex. Now, morally, that's between you and God and you and your mom. That's what I would tell them. If you're having sex or not, but anything that can share one of these diseases. So that's what we're dealing with today. Oh, there it is again, because I'm good. I put it in there twice. I can't see the bottom one, Carl. I had this thing, Sonberg. Some of you commented on it. I feel that the STIs are not a curse because of sexual immorality. It's just science. Like cancer isn't a punishment from God, and diabetes is not a punishment. I think, as we've said before, we think Sonberg sometimes takes a little poetic license when it comes to things like this. And my phone is ringing. It's so nice. I didn't turn it off for class. Okay.
Shannon.
I know. Sorry. So, well, how did they start? Good question. Thank you for asking. I'm not an epidemiologist. We'd have to go back. How did COVID start? How did mumps and measles and smallpox and the common cold? That's way beyond our pay grade. I do know that AIDS, HIV, they did get it from monkeys. And I was teaching in the schools when AIDS became the thing. And the rumor was that people were having sex with monkeys. No, monkeys actually have the virus in their brain and it's part of their muscle tissue, and people were eating them. Eating monkeys is a thing in many cultures. But once it got to the human body, it mutated and became what it is today.
Raiders of the Lost Ark Part 2, Monkey Brains.
Ate monkey brains, and that was it. It was all Harrison Ford's problem. He caused AIDS. No. So it's not a punishment on gay people. I'm glad you guys probably don't hear all that. But Carl and I had to live through all of that when AIDS was first discovered. In fact, they called it the gay disease for years before it had another name. This is sad, but I wish I should, if you take someone at the very top row, just pick anybody and give them gonorrhea, then they gave it to their partner who gave it to the second row, who gave it all the way down. So the girl with the green circle on her head, actually got gonorrhea from the blue boy on the other side, but he got it 15 people before him. So it's not who you're having sex with, it's who they've had sex with, and they've had sex, and they've had sex. So this is what we're trying to explain. Oh, they're from a nice family. You know, she's a nice girl. She doesn't have herpes. That doesn't make any difference. It's who else she's been with before. This stat hasn't changed a whole lot. All the stats that I have in here are new. A lot of money is spent on treatment. It is still 1 out of 4 teenage girls will have an STI. And I'll explain which one is. There's some that are a lot more common. And these are the usual symptoms. But the problem is there are unusual ones. And girls, look at this. Sometimes it's just these things go away. These are easier to spot on men than they are on women. The risk to babies. Quite a few of them there. Not all the STDs do this. This is basically syphilis. A lot of this is syphilis and a little gonorrhea and chlamydia. That's what this is. But a lot of these are syphilis, which we actually have less of now in America than in some other countries. Chlamydia. These are street names for chlamydia. Depends on what part of the country you're from, what people call it. Okay, it's the most commonly reported bacterial. It's reported. Not all the STIs are charted. If you go to the CDC and try to see how many people have herpes, they're going to give you a guesstimate. It is so common, they don't bother to track it. They care, but they can't track it. But if we have a positive chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, at Life Choices, we report not your name, but just your age, gender, and what disease you have to the health department. And that's what makes it to a national database. So we can kind of track it. And notice it's bacterial. We'll talk about the difference between a bacterial disease and a viral one. And look at it's on the rise. I just added that. So some of these stats are new to me because I just put them in. A 19% increase. Let me tell you this right now. Sexual activity with teenagers, it's actually going down. Teenage pregnancy is going down, and teenage abortions are going down. And by teenage, they mean under the age of 24. That's usually what they mean by that. But the STI rates are going up. People are using contraceptions more and are aware of the timing of their bodies. Actually, less teens are having sex now. There are more virgins as seniors in high school than there ever has been. Same way there are more virgins in college, freshman year, than we've ever had. But the STI rates are still going up. It's because you can only get pregnant 4 to 6 days a month, but you can get one of these every day. And people, as you talked about in your papers, are so unaware of them that they, I can't get pregnant, nothing else to worry about. And that ignorance is still what is propelling the STI rates. Look at that chlamydia. Can I tell you that this 92% was 80% when I started teaching this, up to 80% of the women and 40% of the men. It has increased to 92 and 50. They call chlamydia the silent epidemic because you could have it for quite a while and not know that you have it. And it is the STI choice around here, more like 1 out of 4 positive. More than 1 out of 4 women who come to choices has a positive chlamydia. It seems to be very popular around here. There you are. There's the fallopian tubes again. And remember, wish I could point, but it goes, chlamydial infection enters the vagina, goes to the cervix, hangs around the uterus, grows. It looks like warm peanut butter, actually, kind of snotty and kind of stretchy. You know, that's what it looks like. And it just lives and grows in the uterus and the fallopian tubes. These are the symptoms for women. Women, we can have all of these symptoms and it not be chlamydia. Please don't freak out and think you have chlamydia. This is one of the reasons women can have it and not know they have it because it looks like other stuff. Now, men, oh no, I don't like this. Men will sometimes seek treatment because burning and itching, painful and swollen, it will take them to the doctor, even though men historically don't go to the doctor. But look at this again. Look at our symptoms. Look at the men's symptoms. And that's why women, it can go undiagnosed so much longer. Welcome to your cervix, women.
Oh, no.
Thank you, Carl. The one with the metal inside there is a speculum. That is a teenage cervix. The one on the left is an adult, once again, over the age of 24. Your cervix isn't fully developed till your early 20s. This is one reason teenage girls get a lot more STDs than older girls. They still have the same amount of sex-ish, but their cervix is like a sponge, and it's more likely to absorb some of these diseases. It's not like the woman on the left has super cervix, and it's not going to get a disease, but it is the wall around the opening there is a little bit more resilient, unlike the undeveloped one of a 14-year-old is much more likely to absorb the diseases. This is, on the left is labia. There's just women parts covered in chlamydia. That's a penis with chlamydia just oozing out. Now back to this. Of course, if I was in the classroom, I would be drawing on the board. But see where it says fallopian tube? Let's imagine right there, there's little stalactites and stalagmites growing in the fallopian tube. And that's what happens in chlamydia. First of all, it eats away all those little hairs that move the egg along, stops those. So when the egg pops out of the ovary, it's harder for it to make its way down the tube, but it can because there is fluid in your body. So that's a problem for making the egg move. Also, chlamydia causes little stalactites and stalagmites all along. So the egg can get in, the sperm can come up and get in, the baby is made in the fallopian tube and it starts growing and it starts trying to roll and drop down into the uterus, but it can't get out. Not everyone who has a tubal pregnancy has chlamydia. That's not it. But it is a huge problem we have in the last 20 years with tubal pregnancies because of scars from chlamydia. If you think you have chlamydia, they'll give you the right medicine. All that gacky, gooey, warm peanut butter stuff goes away. but it leaves all those little scars in the fallopian tube. And it takes a while for the hairs in the fallopian tube to grow back. So it increases the chance of a tubal pregnancy. All right, that blue ball under the word that says fallopian tubes is the problem. They have taken, this woman had chlamydia. They tried to clean out her fallopian tubes and they shot in blue dye, harmless, trying to get it to go blue all the way up to where it says uterus. But there's some scarring right at the top of that blue ball that even liquid can't go through. The fallopian tube is just shut down. She's 23 and completely infertile because of repeated cases of chlamydia. Treatment's pretty easy when you catch it soon enough. I didn't think it was accurate that Sonnenberg listed PID as an STD. It is the result of chlamydia and or gonorrhea that goes untreated. It is caused by STDs. It is not, never mind, we won't go into that. But chlamydia and or gonorrhea that goes untreated grows all the way, it goes from your vaginal area all the way up to the top of your rib cage, women. That's how far it can grow. And just cover your intestines and your stomach with this gacky, gooey stuff. And by then, if you let it get that bad, you must have an incredible tolerance to pain. And we had a friend who did that. She finally went to the hospital because the diarrhea wouldn't stop. She didn't know she had a tubal pregnancy because of chlamydia in college. She almost died of her tubal pregnancy. Only reason she caught it is because the diarrhea was so bad, she went to the doctor and they'd removed the whole fallopian tube. So she had PID all the way up. It was quite intense. Then men have pain, fever, and sterility. And my t-shirt I did, just because the words are there, I'm gonna have this t-shirt. I'm sure you're all gonna want one. It's gonna say chlamydia, gonorrhea, easy to catch. Oh, I'm sorry, I blew it. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, hard to spell, easy to catch. When you like that, look at those words. Wouldn't that be a great t-shirt? You can go ahead and submit me your sizes and how many you want later on. All right. I do wish Carl was available to tell this story for you. He does a great job telling the gonorrhea story. You've probably heard the term clap, but those are other names for it. Carl, would you like to explain this to the class?
I think you're doing an amazing job.
Back in World War I, we're out in France defending the nation or whatever, and you have a little R&R, a little rest and relaxation, and the guys would visit the village. And about 6 to 12 days later, they would notice a fullness and a little burning when they would pee, and things just felt kind of weird. And they would push, and then the drip, this gooey stuff would drip out, and then the urine would come. Yeah, they were real thrilled about that. But it could get so bad they could no longer urinate. So the joke is they would take 3 of their best buddies about 200 yards outside of camp. Didn't matter. The whole camp was going to hear them scream anyway. So one guy holds this arm, one guy holds this arm, and they push the guy up against a tree. And then his best buddy drops the guy's pants and claps his penis and shoots out that gacky, gooey stuff. And he looks up at him and goes, "Can you pee?" The guy goes, "I can't. Do it again." So they clap the penis. That's what the boards are down there. Clap it to shoot the stuff out of the urethra so then urine could pass. I mean, it was like a major clog of gonorrhea guck. So that's where the term the clap came from. Yay. So all these diseases do so much more damage to women because we're a walking petri dish. All these diseases like dark, warm, and moist. And that's what women are internally. So they all do so much more damage to us. But I do enjoy the clap story. So I was in that mood, imagine that. So I said, girls, let's just hear it for the guys. They all started doing this, clapping. And they would line the halls by the lockers and clap. And the guys had to walk the gauntlet while the girls were I almost got fired for that. But it was really funny. Okay, so that's weird spacing because that's how many cases we have right now. It's up 63% since 2014. Sometimes they call it the Tuesday disease. If you have sex on Friday night, by Tuesday, some guys are going, oh, what's this? Things are different. Things are funky. You can see all the different ways it's transmitted. And this, the middle thing which says 38% is common with a lot of diseases, but this one in particular, 38% of the men, 46% of the women knew something weird was going on with their body. They knew they had a pain or a discharge or a sore or something, but they just ignored it and continued to have sex with a variety of people. And this is why we have so many STIs, because our ability to just ignore and think it's going to go away and pretend it's not there, but yet continue to spread it. Women, okay, those are other things beside chlamydia. Once again, don't think you have chlamydia and gonorrhea just because of these diseases, these symptoms. But men, when men have this, they go, I need to go get checked. Over to the left is labia on a woman. And that's just the gooey stuff, tons of it just running all through her genitalia. The picture on the right, the top organ is the stomach. The bottom organ is the liver. And what they've taken, they've injected hot air into this woman's cavity. So those two would separate. So you could see that white stretchy stuff is pelvic inflammatory disease. It's chlamydia and or gonorrhea that has gone all the way up to under the stomach. And her whole intestinal, her whole cavity, body cavity is filled with gacky, gooey chlamydia and or gonorrhea. Here it is on a circumcised and an uncircumcised penis. That is not semen. That is the drip. That is just chlamydia. Treatment, pretty easy. Pills or a shot. But if you don't get it treated, honestly, the males, the pain, fever, and sterility, it's rare for a man to go so long without treatment that it would actually cause sterility. That was only if he's on a desert island somewhere and can't get to an urgent care. Herpes. Genital herpes. Let me just put this right here. You can have oral herpes. On your mouth is herpes simplex virus 1. On the genitals is herpes simplex virus 2. And it is location is important, but you can exchange herpes through oral sex and get genital herpes in your mouth. And the common cold, the cold sore, which a lot of people have, is a form of herpes, and that can grow in the genital region, but it doesn't want to stay there. It won't stay there for long. I get cold sores because my mother had the audacity to kiss me when I was a child. So I get cold sores. I got it from her. Hers are so bad. They get all big right before during stress. She's a theater director. They'll get huge and be there a week. Mine just itches and burns and is gone in an hour. So many weird things about herpes. Same thing with genital herpes. Some people have it and they don't even know they have it. And some get so many sores they can't go to work and can't go to school. It's the most common. It's like, what? I thought chlamydia was. This is the most common viral. It is by far the most common because there is no cure. If you took every American over the age of 14 and lined them up from the East Coast to the West Coast, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4 herpes, 1, 2, 3, 4 herpes, there's that many. Now you have to be sexually active to get them. What they're doing with this stat is to show you just how common they are. Let me tell you, all the diseases we're discussing today are on our campus. Probably not HIV and probably not syphilis, but there's herpes on our campus. Do I know this for sure? No. Even though in the past I have, different students have already graduated. It is just very common. But you don't walk up to people and go, hi, I'm Shannon, I have herpes. You don't do that. You can deal with it. There's, like I said, it manifests differently in so many different people, whether it's just wipes you out, you can't go to class, or it's just a minor inconvenience. And it could be a sore or a blister, but also the sloughed skin. Here's the problem. When herpes first became really talked about a lot, people would go, well, I'll just look before I have sex with someone, which is very romantic. Get out a flashlight and go, la, da, 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 and check them out, turn around. Oh, okay, let's go. Woo! No one does that. But even if you did, weirdo, where there was a sore or a blister, The skin cells that are sloughing off can still contain the virus. Herpes is related to chickenpox and shingles. They're all cousins. And the virus actually lives in the base of your spine, and stress causes you to have a flare up. Same way with cold sores and shingles. So, prom, big test, big mission trip. I mean, just wedding night, high stress situations could actually cause your remission herpes to flare back up. I was going to let you read that to yourself. I would draw a graph on the board, but we don't have one. Your first outbreak is always the worst. It's the hardest, whether it's in your mouth or in your genital area. And then after that, they do calm down a little bit. And some people will have an outbreak every month, and some will have one a year. It doesn't have a whole lot to do with your immune system. That's what we thought at first. It's just how it manifests, just like COVID. It manifests differently with different people. On your left is a female. That bottom arrow is leading to her urethra, where the urine comes out. They pulled back the labia, and all those shiny places are herpes. The same way on your right, those are herpes. This woman, when she urinates, has to pour water over herself to keep the urine off those open sores. This is herpes on a guy, very, very painful. This is ocular herpes and the herpetic whitlow. Now, the eye is dark, warm, and moist. That is an unusual place for it to grow, but it can. What has happened, this, I guess it's a girl, has got herpes on her hand and did this. Or you pick your nose, or you clean your ear. You can actually spread herpes that way. Herpetic whitlow is a little bit more unusual. When you love to be Dr. Whitlow's children to have a herpes named after you, but that's what that is. This is from touching someone else's herpes, and it grew on their finger. It doesn't want to stay there. There probably won't have many outbreaks because it's not dark, warm, and moist. But this person here will need to wear a cover over that finger for a long time, because once the sores are gone, the little cells, skin cells that fall off, can still spread herpes. There is no cure. What you see advertised are suppressive pills. Maybe I won't get an outbreak as often. Maybe the outbreak won't be as big. That's just the only hope. So that's why it's the number one STI, because there is no cure for it. Just more and more people get it. Are you thrilled so far? Are you thrilled? Okay. Now, you do remember, sex does not cause these. If you do not have a disease and you marry someone who does not have a disease, you will not get them. So I knew I had to explain that to my ninth graders, but sometimes I remember I have to explain it to my college students too. Sex does not make these. This is why it's very common, even if people feel very confident that they don't have a disease, it's kind of a cool thing to go get tested for everything. You kind of, before you get married, you plan the venue, you order your dress, you get the flowers, you go get tested for STDs. It's just kind of a thing to do. HIV. You have never lived in a world where this didn't exist. Remember, you don't die of AIDS, you die of the disease AIDS lets you get. That's it. It wipes out your immune system. That's what it does. So you could die of a paper cut. Don't usually, but you could. Sepsis, you die usually of a very unique cancer. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it is, your papers amazed me. I just added this overly represented. Almost all of your papers talked about this was all you were taught in school. And that is a political lobbying. I was shocked how many of you said, yep, that's all we learned about. The chances of you getting infected with HIV are extremely small. Still, 97% of all HIV victims are homosexual men, or men having sex with men, which is different than homosexual men. Carl will explain all that later when we get to that. Now, the fastest growing group are heterosexual women between the ages of 14 and 24. That's the fastest growing group, but it's still incredibly small. So it is just a crime that all you were taught is HIV, when the likelihood of you getting it is exceedingly small. The likelihood of you getting chlamydia or herpes is huge, yet you weren't told anything about that. And here's how it's transmitted: blood, semen, vaginal secretion, and breast milk. There is medicine now that you can take when you're pregnant. If I had HIV, if I was positive and got pregnant, I can take meds that my child will be born and not have HIV, which is not true in countries that don't have the right medicine. But if I turned around and did the best thing for my child, which is breastfeed, I could actually reinfect them with breast milk. It's fascinating to deal with third world countries, the mothers who have HIV and give birth. Sometimes their babies die. Sometimes after 2 years, the child is no longer positive. It's a fascinating study. The reason why, there's so many different variants of HIV, just like we're finding out with COVID, as you do with every virus, the common cold, so many variants on it. So that's why we can't get a cure for it, because it is mutated. It hit our shores in California, they think in 1949 with a sailor, and it has multiplied and mutated so many times. That's why they can't cure it. It destroys your white cells. So you can be asymptomatic for years, but the list there are some of the common problems you have once you cross over into AIDS. You can be HIV positive for years and not have AIDS. AIDS means you've crossed over and gotten one of the diseases that HIV lets you get: pneumocystic pneumonia and Kaposi sarcoma, a very rare pneumonia. And this man has Kaposi sarcoma. The black lesions on his arm is a very rare cancer that we will never get because our immune system just treats it like it's a moth. I mean, it's nothing. We don't feel it, don't even know it exists. But when your immune system is wiped out, that's when you cross over into AIDS, is when you get an HIV related disease. All right. HPV, warts. Very common, skin to skin contact without even having intercourse. Almost all of these will be, oh, that's my other t-shirt. It's going to say you don't have to do it to get it, and then list all the STDs on the back, because you can get herpes, warts without actually having penile vaginal intercourse. Just fooling around, third base, copping a feel, almost doing it, technical virgin, heavy petting, whatever decade you're from, whatever you want to call it. We didn't have sex. But remember from our earlier slide, any contact like that is sexual when it comes to the STDs. Not all, if your great aunt died of cervical cancer, did not mean she had HPV, because you can have cancer in other parts of your body and it moves to the cervical area. But untreated HPV leads to cervical cancer with almost everybody. Small bumps are a group of bumps. See, they look quite different. God was always so funny. On the days we would do this, he would serve cauliflower in the cafeteria for the students. For 7th and 8th graders, we would take cauliflower, a head of cauliflower, and break it and throw it in the classroom. And the kids are like, woo, woo, they're 7th and 8th grade, right? We said, you just caught HPV. Is that easy? Skin to skin contact. Ah! They would scream. There's cauliflower all over the floor. It was great. The janitors loved us on those days. All right. That's what it looked like. Now, see that little thing on that guy's lips? That's what I had when I had braces. You guys had braces and you didn't put the wax on it. It would cause a little, that's exactly what that is. But the one on the right is classic. One bump has baby bumps, which has baby bumps, and they keep growing. Now, I don't know which picture is next. I'm already apologizing. There we go. It's called a lion's mane. Now we'll talk about it, so you don't have to look at it. You know, we talked about this before, I think, how you want to be famous, you want to be written up in books, but you don't want to be written up in a medical journal. The growth on that man's penis was common enough that it has a name. It's called lion's mane. He's just let it go untreated. Either he's 14 and can't tell his mom, or he's in a third world country without medical, or he's an idiot and he thinks it looks cool, man. You know, I don't know why why he let it go that long. But if you don't stop them, they will just keep multiplying. This is actually a man. I've raised the screen. You can actually see the scrotum hanging down below there. Why would he let it go that long? Yeah, we'll let that one burn in your head right there. Anal warts. And the next one I think is there's the vaginal opening. See that one little wart that's right there? It doesn't itch, doesn't burn. She doesn't know it's there. She can't find her tampon string. She might run across it going, huh, what's that? But left untreated. And then here's a cluster of warts growing in the labia on the right, but left untreated. Ta-da! That's the one you're never going to forget. I'm surprised she could even urinate. That's probably why she went to the doctor. If you'll notice, it's also growing over the anal area as well. Tori, I love your face. Thank you. I can see you on here. Thank you. All right. Now, if you've ever had a wart that you need, it grows up like this and you have to cut it off. But if you don't get to the root, it just grows back, and you cut it off, it just grows back. So that's what they've learned with these also. They have to go down below the surface and cut them off. They used to use lasers, but they have found out, I still have it on here because some countries still use lasers. The spores of the HPV hit the air and they started growing in the doctors' and nurses' noses because they were lasering them. And it was like a dust cloud of HPV, and it was growing in their eyes and in their noses. They don't do that in America much anymore. They usually freeze them off. Our guy at Life Choices has a little container. It looks like a mini fire extinguisher. And he goes from room to room. He has days, but he comes on like on Wednesday, and all of our HPV clients come and he freezes off their warts. He just goes from room to room, freezing them off. And then once you freeze them, you could cut them off and go a little bit deeper. When I was first started talking about this, Carl and I would travel the nation doing assemblies because nobody else was talking about this. And I've never talked to more than 150 at a time. If I had less than 150, this might not have happened. But if it was more than 150, some girl would come up to me afterwards in tears. I always had snot and mascara on my shoulders because I just brought them in, baby. It was at a public school, but they were just devastated after the presentation and felt so unclean. So I'd bring them in and hold them. That's what mamas do. And I would get snot mascara all over my shoulder. But I had a girl go, I have those words you were talking about. And I've had to go every Tuesday for the last 4 months to get them cut off. How much longer do I have to do this? Well, obviously she had a very intense case and let them go so long. It took weeks and weeks and weeks to get them all cut off. The next picture I'm going to show you is not the same woman who had all of the warts covering her whole genitalia, but it's what that woman had to have done to her. They had to go down deep and get them. So all of her labia is gone. Her major labia and her minor labia is gone. She can still pee, urinate. She can still have sex, still give birth. But there's a chance that her clitoris has also had to have been removed. This is a cervix up at the top of the vagina. This is when you go for a pap, which you don't need to, I shouldn't say that. They say once you turn 21, you need to go. If you're sexually active, you need to go way before that. And it's not exceedingly pleasant, women, but they take something that's like salad tongs. That's a speculum. They're warmed and greased up, and they put them inside your vagina and open it a little bit and crank it open. And then they take a long Q-tip. These are technical terms. And they go in and they take a little bit of cells off of your cervix. They put it on a slide and they look at it, and they're looking for HPV. To really manifest and do a lot of harm, some of the HPV causes warts. Some of it causes cervical cancer. There's 30 to 40 different HPV strains that are exchanged sexually, but only about 6 of them do scary stuff. A couple of them causes warts, which guys can get, obviously, and some of them cause cervical cancer, which it doesn't affect men, but they are carriers. They could have had sex with someone who had HPV, have sex with you, not even knowing that they were carrying this with them. So what they do is they go in, if they have a bad pap, if they look at that skin cells, they go, doesn't look really good. Come back in 6 months. Rest, take care of yourself. Come back in 6 months. They go, doesn't look good. Come back in 3 months. And they'll look at it again. They go, oh, you're fine. 90% of the time, with over 2 years, your body will fight HPV, the type that causes cancer, not the warts. The warts will not go away. Your body will just win, just like it does if you have stomach flu. Your body wins. All right. 10% of the time, if left untreated, it turns into cervical cancer. It doesn't happen with girls your age. You guys are getting PAPs. It happens with women my age. I'm no longer having children, might not go get a PAP as often. And that's why it could cause a problem. I have 7 minutes left. Carl just told me we're doing really well though. So we'll talk about the shot in class if you want to. It's 3 shots. They are not comfortable. Don't just get 1 or 2 and then go and not go back and get the 3rd, which is quite common to do. Life Choices would say get the shot. Shannon might be a little bit different. If you have not been sexually active and you marry someone who's not been sexually active, you do not need to do this. But it's for men and women, both. I'm not for or against it. We can talk about it sometime after class if you'd like. Syphilis, not a big deal here, but if you do mission work, it's a huge deal. We've kind of controlled it in our country. If you come up with a positive syphilis, they say, have you had sex with someone out of the country? Have you been outside of the country? Syphilis and gonorrhea have been around forever. When I was in high school, when my dad was in high school, when his dad was in high school, syphilis and gonorrhea have been around forever. The other ones are relatively new. Gonorrhea has been around so long, it is now mutated to a level that not all the antibiotics will can cure it. We call that black clap, to be cute. Syphilis we can cure. 3 different stages, not super important, but here's the scary part. You get a sore and then it goes away. And then you get things that feel like the flu and then it goes away. So what was that? And then 20 years later, you die of syphilis. That's how that works with the tertiary. That's a syphilic chancre on this man. He doesn't know what it is, but it's a direct, if you have syphilis, your likelihood of getting AIDS, HIV is much greater. So syphilis is huge in the homosexual community, much more than the heterosexual community. There's a syphilic chancre on this woman. She won't see that unless she's looking. She won't feel it, doesn't itch, doesn't burn, and it will just go away. She doesn't even know she has it. This is a child that was born with syphilis. And since the head is not there, we assume that the child was born dead. Look on the thigh, those black circles, that's the same thing that the syphilic chancre that you see on the guy. The spleen is distended. If the child did live, it would be deaf, blind, and probably retarded. Does not happen here. Huge in third world countries, huge. And there's Choices Medical. Let me tell you, lots and lots of Ozark students come and get tested. Let me tell you this, I answer the phones on the weekends, okay? So if you call on the weekends to get an appointment, you'll get me. That's super fine with me. I just want you to know. But you could call the line, have your friends, we'll have someone from Choices come and they'll hand out business cards. And my dear people, I think you need to carry them with you because you're going to have someone coming up to you freaking. And that card that you have that they can, why freak? Go find out. Go find out for sure. And even the text line is great. You could text anytime, any question, and they get right back with you. I am on the 24-hour helpline and I answer. So if you call on weekends and just want to talk to me, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's change my mind. Don't do that. Don't give me a crank call. Oh man, I got this growth. Don't you do that to me. I'll recognize your voice. I swear I will. Why did I tell you I'm on weekend phones? I don't trust any of you. All right. So do we have questions? Are you thoroughly grossed out? That was my goal. Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Thank you very much. Feel free to text me any questions you have because you want to be private or just because you have one and we don't have time today. Feel very free to do that. And then Carl, when are we going to have the quiz posted? Tomorrow?
I think you had it scheduled for tomorrow night. Do you want to tell them anything about that?
No, I'm going to repost I'm going to publish what I just showed you today without the pictures. And the quiz is open note. Just look at it. It's just really just another way to think about it again, to fill in the data, maybe on the quiz, maybe it'll help it stick a little bit more. That's it. It's just like intense note taking that you could have done in class. So I'll go ahead and we'll publish that. I'll publish the slideshow and the quiz, and it's just due tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's due by tomorrow night at 9.
Very good. What else? Any other changes, or we'll just post those? You can look at the calendar and seeing how we're going to try to make up our missed days.
Well, the married and single books are due tomorrow night, and we'll talk about those on Wednesday. And we'll also try to make up the 3 people who didn't get to do their beauty and culture presentations.
So that's what we're going to do on Wednesday. We're going to start with those 3 people. We're going to do this very thing. We already have your slideshow. So it's going to look just like this. We're going to put your slideshow up there, and you will be where I am. Just give a little presentation. It lasts 60 to 90 seconds. That's it. Just tell us about your research you did, and then we'll put you in groups based on your books, what books you read, and you can talk about that, and then we'll come back and share them just like we do in class. Very good.
Okay. Shannon, why don't you unshare your screen?
I would love to do that.
Cool. And who?
I'm seeing the questions now. We'll talk about infertility and sterility. Thank you. That's good, because we're going to talk about reproduction. Oh, and someone had a question about getting their tubes tied in one of your papers. Excellent question, because that is a very vague term. When we get to infertility, we'll discuss all of that, but thank you.
No time limit on the quiz. It's open note, so you can look at that PowerPoint that she just did. Who is the furthest away today? Who wins the prize for being the furthest away? Anybody go home for the weekend? Everybody's in town?
How could they get home?
I know, ain't that the truth? Okay. Has anybody built a snowman?
No, the high is 2 today. I don't think it's buildable. Has anybody been out? I think it's just too blowy and powdery.
I know, we haven't been out. Okay. I preached yesterday morning from our living room, so.
That was fun.
Okay.
I was AT girl. I was awesome.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, it was great. Okay. Well, blessings on everybody. Maybe we'll have class Wednesday. We'll, as soon as we know, we'll let you know. Okay. See you guys. Good to see you. Bye. Okay, don't close yours.
It's still recording. Hi. You must stop the recording.
Can you hit stop recording?
I don't see it. The thing kind of disappeared.
But you let me. If you're still watching, that's interesting, but we'll